again, putting in for the presidency at UND, same type of thing, where you said, reflect upon it. Would I make a difference? Would it be good? And I thought, it seems like a really amazing position at an amazing school.
Yeah.
So let's go for it. And here we are. So,
welcome back to the Mac Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, business, real estate, everything that challenges conventional thinking. Guys, if you're tired of following the same old advice, want to learn how to break free and unfollow the herd, then you're in the right place. And guys, please, I don't do any ads on this channel. If you can subscribe, share this with someone that could get some value from this, it helps me out a ton. And today's guest, I'm super excited. We got the 13th president of the University of North Dakota. He has a campus over 14,000 students.
14,172.
Oh, I like that. Hey, he's got it. We know exactly. He's also one of the largest online schools in the nation. And we're up here in North Dakota, which we're doing big things. So welcome, Andy Armacost, or Uncle Andy.
Thanks, Mark. And, haven't heard that in a while, but an old nickname from my days at the Air Force Academy when I was there as the provost. Yep. So it's good to be here. I'm delighted to be part of the podcast.
Yeah. No. Well, and so we're gonna get right into this because I think everyone's interested. What do you got going on right now? Kind of what's your not necessarily what your day's like, but what's going on in the university right now? You guys got a lot.
There's a lot. In fact, we just came off a busy few weeks. We had Greg Brockman who hails from Thompson. He was the founder of OpenAI, which was the inventor of ChatGPT.
It's insane to me.
He visited the campus. We had a Nobel Prize winner, Tawakkol Karman, who was here, Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Wow.
We had our big homecoming events, and one of those was the launch of a $500 million fundraising campaign. And it's just, there's a lot of things happening on the campus. And just the other day, the EERC, the Energy and Environmental Research Center, just was awarded their leading $925 million grant related to hydrogen energy. So there's just a lot of momentum. And of course, beautiful fall, a lot of activity on campus. It's great. I think this is the first year where we've felt like it's kind of back to normal, right? So we had COVID, and then the year after that was very limited, and we were kind of eking out of it last year. But this year, it just feels really good. There's a vibe on campus that's incredible, and the students there's a lot of hustle bustle there, and faculty and staff. So it's been a great fall semester for sure.
Well, and I see everything that goes on at the university. I think you and I were talking before this, like I think I poured concrete on the university like 7, 8 years ago, and just how much has changed since then. Is there like a mission that you guys are on creating a university that's top tier? I mean, obviously you got to keep up with all the other universities out there, but how are you guys doing? It seems like you're doing more than I see even other universities.
Well, we're trying to make the physical spaces just a great spot for our students to come and learn. And so that includes where they live. So we have 2 new residence halls. We knocked down Old West and Old McVeigh and built New West and New McVeigh and renovated Brannan. And then, they deserve great places to live and a kind of a central community like that. But on the academic side, just new buildings going up. The Nisler College of Business and Public Administration went up about, I guess it's been, last year.
Yeah, that probably opened last year.
Yeah, and renovations. We have the new Memorial Union, which opened up the year before. Renovations of Merrifield Hall. The whole idea, we're not just going crazy to build, but in order to reduce the long-term maintenance costs and to reduce the overall space that might not be needed anymore, we've taken down old buildings and we've renovated buildings, and we've built a couple new buildings as well. And it ties to our campus master plan, which was created back in 2016. So it's not just arbitrary decisions that we're making to say, hey, let's build here now. It's by design, right? And we had a long-term plan, and we're following that plan very, very carefully. So, and the campus looks great. So any of your listeners or watchers, viewers, if you're out there, come to the campus. It's beautiful. It's a great place to learn, to live, and to just be part of a great, amazing community.
Yeah. My wife hasn't been there. She probably graduated, probably 2010 or something like that. And we just went back there to the Union, and she's like, she was walking the alleyway. I think we were talking before this, like, is it worth spending that much money on this? What do we call it? what is it? What do you call that common way? Kind of behind the Union, behind.
Oh, it's got lots of names.
Yeah,
It's a Second Avenue walkway. It's the pedestrian walkway. It probably has other names too.
Right. Yeah. Just amazing. She goes in there, and then the new Union. She's like, wow, this is amazing. It's just the different amazing feeling. And our weather is can be a little tough, but the university is keeping up with everything. It's amazing what you guys have done or been able to accomplish in such a short time. Really, I mean, it's flipped the script since 2017.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And again, I encourage people to swing by. But we've been really judicious in how we've used taxpayer funding to make these happen. In fact, the Nistler College, which I mentioned before, it was a $70 million project. $50 million was from private donations.
Wow.
And $20 million was what the state chipped in for it.
Wow.
So there's these partnerships that we can form to make these really cool things happen.
Yeah.
And the Memorial Union, for example, it was the students who voted to essentially charge themselves a fee, and it's the student fees that pay for the construction costs and the operations of that facility. So it's really, there's a variety of ways that we're creating public-private partnerships and looking for clever ways to enhance the environment on campus.
What's like the future for the university as far as like the building and the construction, since we're talking? Are you guys, I mean, is this master plan end at any point, or is it, do you just keep making a new master plan?
We'll update it. I don't know when the next update comes. It's probably in the next year or two.
Okay.
But we'll take a look at where we are.
Yep.
The goal is to, again, reduce the expensive maintenance of buildings. And when you have old, aging buildings, they just become more and more expensive to take care of. So we just have to make adjustments as we go. But stick to the overall plan. If there's some major disruption, or if we see that, enrollment swells by another 100% or something, it might change the direction that we go.
Sure.
But we have a pretty good sense, I think, of where we're heading.
Yeah.
And then I didn't mention the online piece, right? So
you
did in your opening remarks.
About that.
But the online piece is important too, because not everybody can come to Grand Forks to get a great education.
Right.
So you put the great UND name on top of a great educational experience that you deliver from a distance.
Yeah.
And it provides opportunities for people who just their position in life. They might be working professionals. They might just don't want to come physically to Grand Forks and stay in their hometowns in North Dakota. It's an amazing opportunity with great programs.
What, when you created obviously COVID probably sparked more of this, or were you were after, you were before this?
We were on board on online before the pandemic. It made the transition in the pandemic that much easier because we had the infrastructure and the know-how to make it happen. But we trace back to, I think our earliest program was in engineering back in the early 80s, where they used to distribute videotapes, right? And and they'd mail videotapes to the students who would mail them back. And that's how distance education was done back then. So we were early adopters of distance education. It's been part of the fabric of the university for a long time.
Yeah, so that's how you guys are keeping at the top of that, and
that's growing. I mean, so that portion of our portfolio continues to grow. So we have over 4,000 online students.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And is that part of the 14,000?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a blend, right?
Yep, gotcha. And so even these new buildings you're building, I imagine the technology of the fit up in these, it's like, you have the physical part, but the technology part has got to be.
You have to adopt the right technologies to teach in modern ways, and plus our professors who teach online are professors on campus, right? So some teach both on campus and online, and they still have research obligations and obligations that they conduct from the campus here as well. So the physical spaces are still important, even with this increase in online.
That's crazy. How in the world did you become all the way up to president? What's your background? Where did you grow up then and come from?
It's an interesting story. So I was a Coast Guard brat. So my father was in the Coast Guard. At age 10, I was 10 when we moved to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee became my home.
Okay.
And went to school in Chicago at Northwestern University, and was an Air Force ROTC student there. So I then went on active duty after graduation. And so my career in the Air Force isn't like most other Air Force careers where you bounce around the U.S. and overseas. My career was in Boston, Massachusetts, and then in grad school in Boston, and then to Colorado Springs to join the faculty of the Air Force Academy, back to Boston for more grad school, back to the academy to serve as a professor, and then ultimately department chair, and finally the provost, or what we called the dean of the faculty.
Okay.
And so that academic experience prepared me well for becoming the university president. So in the fall of 19, I retired from the Air Force and then interviewed and was selected for the position here at UND. And what a great choice it was, and not a great choice for me and Kathy to put our names in the hat.
Yeah.
I hope others think that it was a great choice for them to choose me, but
I think they do.
But it's been just a real joy, and the members of the campus, students, faculty, and staff are incredible. Members of the community are awesome.
Yeah. Well, what kept pushing you then to move up in the rankings? You never got complacent then. I mean, what kept driving you?
So it's interesting. I never had a grand plan to become a university president, right? You don't wake up when you're a kid and you say, I want to be a firefighter or a police officer or whatever, right? I knew when I was in college, an academic career or life as a professor would be really cool.
Okay.
And I felt a real calling to do that. And the Air Force gave me the chance to do that through assigning me to the Air Force Academy. Yep. And then when I had a chance to move up to a department chair position, which at the academy is a significant leadership position, I thought, do I really want to leave what I love so much?
Yeah.
And so I had to wrestle with the choice. Do I want an expanded leadership portfolio, or do I want to stay in the classroom, which I loved doing and doing research? And I said, well, let me give it a shot, see how it goes, right?
Sure.
People were telling me, hey, we think you'd be good in this role. And that jump went well, and I enjoyed the different role. And I realized that as you move up, your policies, your words, the decisions that you make can actually have a pretty broad impact on many people. And so for that same reason, when the position of dean of the faculty or provost became available, that's responsible for the academic program for 4,000 students at the academy. I had a similar logic, like, do I really want to do this? I'm loving what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a reluctant move, but it wasn't something that I sought. And when the opportunity came up, I said, well, let me reflect upon it and see if this fits what I think I can accomplish, and will I be good for, you have to ask, would I be good in the role, and would my selection be good for the institution? And I answered yes to both of those questions, and I said, yeah, let me put my name in, and was fortunate to be selected. And there you have an impact, right? And you have a chance to really inspire and motivate, in that case, 4,000 students to do something great. And again, putting in for the presidency at UND, same type of thing, where you said, reflect upon it. Would I make a difference? Would it be good? And I thought, yeah, it seems like a really amazing position at an amazing school. Yeah. So let's go for it. And here we are. So I know it sounds kind of Forrest Gump-like, let me see what's going to happen. But I never had an aspiration to follow this particular path. It just kind of unfolded, and I took the opportunities to lead.
Yeah, that's awesome. At any point, so people can I just asked how you moved through so fast, but obviously if people were telling you to do this and asking you, which you must have shown leadership, consistency, everything you need to be a great leader. Was it uncomfortable for the move? And obviously you asked yourself the questions and you committed. You're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
How did you break through the uncomfortableness? Did you just commit and go?
You commit and go. And for those who wonder, do leaders always have all the answers? No way. Do you ever have insecurities? All the time, right?
Yeah.
And you fight through those uncertainties and the insecurities, and you say, no, for the good of the mission or the vision of the organization, you say, it's my turn to help out. And if you have a really good team, which we do at UND, it was easy to make the transition because they were so supportive. But think about the timing. Yeah. June 1st of 2020.
Yeah, I know.
It was a tough time to move in.
Yeah.
And
talk about uncertainty.
And the great thing is we had a great collaborative team that I was able to join as president, and then to help hopefully foster that sense of teamwork as we wrestled with some really, really tough issues.
Right. So talk a little bit about that. You join. You're in the depths of COVID, basically. What they have to turn to you, I'm sure, a little bit to make. You're going to make a decision whether it's right, wrong, or you have to make a decision, right? And what was going through your mind then? Like, obviously you didn't want to screw up in this new elevated role, and you had a big shoes, and just talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was important to at least share with the team kind of the way that you think and demonstrate how you think about the issues at hand, right? Okay. So I generally, in situations like that, will actually talk out loud and say, kind of, here's what I'm thinking, here are the pros and cons. And I ask a lot of questions of people, and not debate, but really probe what they're thinking as well.
Okay.
And then kind of talk through solutions and allow the team to be part of crafting those solutions as well. And that way you get buy-in. But the good news is I made the transition to UND formally on June 1st of 2020. But shortly after I was hired in December, I became kind of a part-time player on the team. So Josh Wynn was our president at that time, and he and I talked it through and said, let's do something different. Let's kind of both serve. He's the president. I'm kind of the president in waiting, not getting in his way, but offering whatever support that I can. Yeah. And once COVID hit, there was enough work for both of us to keep things going. So he was president, and I was an able-bodied supporter to him. Gotcha. And just with my military background and background in logistics and planning, it was I think a really good combination. So
yeah, I like how you said just how you faced a difficult situation, but you didn't provide the solutions. You asked your key people for solutions.
They know a lot more about UND than I did.
Right. Even though, I mean, you asked them for a few different solutions, and you kind of helped them through picking the right one at the end of the day.
Yeah. Ultimately, the responsibility falls upon the president. Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's truly, I think, what makes a good leader. Like, you didn't make the decision, and this is what you do, and this is how we're doing it. You're letting them make the decisions.
Yeah. Right.
Leading them.
Right. And they have tremendous talents, and they have great experiences that they draw from every single day. So I'm lucky to be part of that great team.
That's super cool. I appreciate you sharing that. I wanna move to AI, because you mentioned Greg Brockman at the beginning of this, and I think it's worth mentioning because it's I'm from Thompson. He was from
Thompson.
He went to Red River. I went to Thompson, but he actually went to University of North Dakota
while he was in high school.
Really?
So, because I think he ran out of classes at Red River.
Oh, yeah.
And he needed a bunch of advanced classes. So from what he said, he took math classes, chemistry, physics. He took Russian classes and then philosophy classes. Yeah.
The guy is super smart. And you got to get on I'd say a podcast interview, however you want to say it, with him. What is that, a few weeks? A month ago? Something like that?
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. But it was a pretty exciting opportunity.
Talk to me just a little bit. Talk to me about that interview, and then we'll dig into AI a little bit and how the university, really approaches it now.
So it was an extraordinary opportunity to have a person who is at the forefront of what will be one of the most pivotal technologies that we've seen. Is pretty exciting. And so we had extended an invitation to him to speak. Turns out Professor Ryan Zier was his math professor back when Greg was on campus. And Ryan reached out to him last spring and said, "Hey, we'd love to get you here." And he said, "Well, I don't know if my schedule will permit." And it was set up originally to be a video interview. And then a business leader and business founder from Fargo, Michael Chambers, knows Greg and was able to work things out to bring Greg out here face to face. And so our thanks off, if Michael's listening, I don't know if he is, thank you, and Ryan Zier as well. And holy smokes, it was just a wonderful chance to hear what Greg thinks and the future of AI.
Yeah. Well, Mike has done great things, and it's funny that Greg Brockman, I mean, the guy created OpenAI. I think Stripe is where he started, or one of his big successful. He had plenty of startups that sound like they failed, and I think that's just how it goes in the startup world. But I think they sold Stripe, or he got out of Stripe and started OpenAI. Was that 2016? Do you remember?
It was 2016, 2017. I forget the exact date.
And he started working on, I don't know, it's not just ChatGPT. This is all sorts of other AI technologies.
DALL-E is part of it. That's that image.
Yep.
And painting.
Yeah.
It
draws
amazing. Pictures. Right.
Yeah. And all these other AI technologies. And Greg Brockman, I think we were talking before, didn't even finish his degree. Either did I, from the university, but I don't know that he needed to. He's a brilliant guy, and ChatGPT though is maybe changing. When it first came out, you got Elon Musk of the world, and you got kids turning in papers writing with AI. Now, how did were you guys fearful out of the gate and are trying to figure out how to adapt now, or how does the university see AI?
So I vividly recall in November and early December, just all the discussions that were happening. It was kind of on the down low for a little bit. And then it started emerging kind of around Christmas time and the new year about, wait a second, students are coming back to school or to universities, and they have this new tool, right?
Yeah.
And there was some real panic in some circles. The New York City school system banned it outright. They said you can't use it. And we had to wrestle with the same issues. What's the impact? What's the benefit? What are the opportunities that exist? And we at UND took a pretty deliberate approach. We put together a committee on campus to examine how you can use it in effective ways, and how will it affect the way that you teach, how will it affect the way that students learn. And this committee has done great work. In fact, they've just posted a list of, I think it's close to 50 courses that have embedded either ChatGPT or other AI tools in their educational approach, just to see how students will engage with it. In other words, one of my favorite was from our theater program, theater arts program. It's a costume design course, and they had an exercise where the student was supposed to work hand in hand with ChatGPT to come up with a costume design for a particular role, for a particular play.
Okay.
And work through it and iterate with it, not just do it once and be done with it, but kind of think through how you can come up with better ways to describe to ChatGPT what you're looking for, or the general idea and what you're trying to convey through the costuming. And then your job was to then draw the result. So they had to actually physically do the artwork themselves. But that's just one example of many on the campus where professors are doing very creative things. But you're right, the big risk or the big concern was people are going to cheat with it.
Yep.
And then it's up to the professors to come up with exercises and learning approaches in class that might not, that are kind of foolproof to ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
But there might be a different way to teach the material that doesn't require on a long essay.
Gotcha. Well, and I think I thought I heard this when New York was doing it, that I'm sure there's someone working on a program to work with the universities, school systems, whatever, on a program to detect ChatGPT like level writing, where they're not, it's a great program, but it doesn't put it in human word. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't add your personality to whatever you're writing.
It's true.
It's a great tool for ideas and great tool for writing, and can give you a good baseline.
Yeah.
I never had to write an essay. Like I said, a concrete guy, so not writing is not my absolute best thing that I love doing. But so you're
in a business that could, just the standard business process flows that happen on a daily basis. The inventories and the invoicing and the workflow that happens within a company like yours. There's automation opportunities left and right. And so ChatGPT, I think, stirs the imagination a little bit. I should also mention we have a cross-university consortium as well. It's called the NDUS, North Dakota University System AI Forum, where we're talking about the impact of AI across all 11 schools in the state of North Dakota, all the universities.
Gotcha.
So it's there's a lot of conversations happening.
Well, in business, everyone in our company is trained on using AI.
Yeah.
Like we have to be. It makes everything so much quicker. I think there's even questions on here from AI to me to ask you. And it just gives you great questions to ask. Just gives you ideas. It sparks up ideas. And maybe it could be a difficult conversation to our employees about something that we need to address.
Yeah.
And instead of that employee writing it for an hour, or that leader, he can write it in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and send out a pretty detailed, and switch it up. So,
and you have to be careful too, because sometimes the leader's words need to be the leader's words,
right?
Especially when dealing with really tough issues that businesses or organizations face. Never outsource the important stuff to ChatGPT. It'll come back to bite you. We've seen a bunch of cases like that.
Yeah. And I think that's just, I don't even know when the program came out. It's been out maybe Hasn't even been a year yet?
November 22nd last year, yeah.
Okay, so we're almost a year now.
Yeah. But there were earlier versions of it.
Oh, was there? Okay.
Yeah, GPT-2 and
okay. Everyone's familiar with the consumer version or whatever they can use now. So do you teach, is there going to be a class on how to utilize the tool to be more efficient, more productive, or will there everything be anything like that at the university?
I think what's going to happen is it'll probably be embedded within certain courses, right?
Okay.
I don't think we'll have a ChatGPT course per se.
Yeah.
But if I'm taking a marketing course and the professor says, hey, we should explore what's the interplay between a marketing professional, the human, and a tool like ChatGPT, or maybe there's going to be some marketing specific generative tools.
Yep.
And so I think it will likely be used in that way. And the question is, what do we have to teach all students about the risks and benefits of ChatGPT? So it might not be just how to use it if we go into it, but what are the ethical implications? How do they work? They collect a bunch of data, they run some algorithms, and then they're able to produce things based on probabilities. Okay, so that's a little mysterious.
Yep.
And how do you describe that to people? For the purpose not for them to create their own, but for them to understand the limitations of the technology. So for example, if you have data that's biased in some way, it might be that the data that you have for what you might be looking at, salary data or something that has gender bias in it, right?
Okay.
Which is known in society that women are often paid less than men.
Oh, sure.
But if you train your data sets and your decisions on existing data that has bias in it, then the answers that this tool might give you might have that bias reflected in it. And so these are the types of things that they have to, the ethical pieces and the legal pieces that our students have to be aware of as well.
That's why I'm here asking the questions, because I think not everyone hears the university side, which is interesting, to me. And, we use the tool. I think the tool is going to get used. It's how you can use it properly to be more productive. And I heard some statistic, and I don't remember the actual, but like from 100 years ago, how fast we learn things today versus 100 years ago. And it's like, our brains are moving at much faster speeds because we have so much access to information, whether it's your phone, your ChatGPTs, Google.
Your phone is not a phone. Your phone is a supercomputer.
Right, yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's with you all the time.
Do you think at all, does that make any degrees, anything in the future will be faster with getting a degree? Like, because we have so much access to information that we can learn things faster than we used to. I think it was like something like you could learn something in a year, 100 years ago, what takes like 4 hours today or something like that, because just how fast everything moves nowadays.
I think it depends on what you want them to learn.
Okay.
Right? Do you learn the underlying mechanics, right? So computer programming is a great example. We used to teach, and we still teach, but assembly language and the basic zeros and ones.
Okay.
And I think the amount of coding that happens in that environment is probably far less than it is. It's less now than it was before.
Okay.
So I think what happens is the things that you teach become different because knowledge changes, right? Knowledge becomes more expansive. And that's one of the tricks of higher ed is what is it that we should be teaching our students? And so understanding what our workforce partners, the employers are looking for. So we have advisory committees that help guide each of the colleges on campus about the types of directions they should be heading with regard to programming.
That's neat. You always think, obviously technology advances and it keeps advancing. I mean, 10 years ago, it was a lot different than it is today. And,
for sure.
And 100 years, obviously much different. And obviously it's just going to keep getting more and more advanced. And I don't know, you never think, in my eyes, it's like, I don't think anything can change. Like, how can these cameras get different? How can the phone convert? It'd be just smarter, I suppose. But
and I think there's an important piece to this too, that as the technology does start spinning faster and faster, what's the role of a university like UND or NDSU or a 2-year school like Lake Region?
Yeah.
Is there value? Some people claim, nope, we can just learn things faster. We can outsource it to Khan Academy or just do something online and get just a quick degree, all based on technology. And the fact is, I think one of the biggest issues we're going to face is how do you balance technology with humanity? Right? What does it mean to be human? And what does it mean to think critically about things? What does it mean to have an appreciation for the arts? What does it mean to understand other people and other cultures and other countries politically? And And that stuff has value.
Yeah.
And if you just focus on the technical piece, all of that gets lost. And I think there's really, as we move forward, we have to think about the interplay between human beings and what it means to be human and the technology that will support us.
I got it.
It's not just about the technology.
Right.
So we have to be careful there.
Gotcha. No, that's a great point. What's, other than COVID, what's one of your biggest challenges being the UND president?
Yeah. Pick one, right?
Pick one.
Yeah. There's one of the big ones, like a real term that came up was Native American repatriation. So about a year and a half ago on the campus, we found the remains of Native American ancestors. And in the belief system of Native Americans, these are ancestors. The ancestor is still part of the remains that are still here on Earth. And, and so they're treated with dignity and respect. And so there's a vital importance that we make sure that we comply with federal law and make sure these ancestors return home to their homelands. And so that's consumed a lot of time on campus, a lot of personal time of mine. And how you make sure that you engage properly with tribal nations. It takes a considerable amount of time to build those relationships over time. And then also, how do you share our progress with the public while still honoring the kind of the sacred elements of these are ancestors? And it's not a PR campaign. It's not, we're not speaking with the public for attention to us, but rather to inform the campus of what's happening and to make them aware of the sensitivity that exists. So that's been a real big challenging issue for the campus. But I think we have a great team that's been advising me and others on campus. They've done an exceptional job. And shout out to Mary Baker, who we hired as our liaison to the federal government and to the tribes. And she's done a great job too. Wow.
Yeah, I think we were on campus doing the job behind the Chester Fritz. Is that where this was found? Or yeah, I believe so anyway. And we had to shut down our job because obviously something had happened. And I think when we went there, it was like, they found... What can you explain like what the discovery was, how they ended up finding this?
Yeah, we've talked about this publicly, but we were searching actually for a sacred pipe. And there was a group of 3 or 4 who were searching a storeroom for this pipe, and they saw a box that said that indicated there might be human remains. And at that point, we said, okay, we have an issue here. Nobody knew this. At least people currently on the campus had no idea. Certainly somebody in the past knew about it. And so from there, it just, and I can't talk about where, just to respect the privacy of the work that's going on, but it was one of those situations where it catches you by surprise, but immediately you know the importance. And our Native American colleagues and students on campus, of course, understand the cultural importance. And it's been my responsibility and the team's responsibility to make sure the rest of the campus appreciates the pain, but also the responsibility we have under law, but also, I believe, the moral responsibility to return them home.
Wow. Yeah, that's a difficult one. You're still...
That's been a big one.
That's been a big one.
Yeah, and then there's just the general question. Life on campus is busy. There's many dimensions. You have 14,000 students. You have 3,000 faculty and staff. There's a lot of work that goes on to understand what people are thinking. And a great example of that is our strategic plan, which we just launched. It's called UND Leads, which stands for, it's an acronym that's Learning, Equity, Affinity, Discovery, and Service. And it's 5 pillars that we've kind of described the vision of the university, which is to create a sense of wonder and the love of discovery and a commitment to service. And so these things are, they sound like feelings. Like, love of discovery. But that's the vibe we want on campus. Is a student or a faculty member comes and says, "There's something really special happening on the campus." Right, the opportunity to grow as a human being. So that was a big effort on the campus. 11 months to put that plan together.
Wow. Yeah, that's and this is the heartbeat of Grand Forks too. I mean, UND and what you're building there is only helping our town flourish, and we're considered a college town. I mean,
and the interplay between the two, we received 2 national awards for the connection between Grand Forks and the University of North Dakota. back in 2021 and 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just how deep the connection is,
Right.
and how you guys work together.
And the vision together. And we hear this from legislators as well, just about when we go before the legislature every 2 years, just the great work that happens within the city of Grand Forks to build a team that looks out for one another and articulates the case of what the city needs. It's remarkable. It's a great team.
Yeah, that's, well, I think if you can get support from the city level at the university level, and good things can happen. Obviously they have, and there's a lot of effort in that area to make it the best. I think the best in the state, but we're not biased.
Right. Well, we love to tout the immense quality of the programs we have, but we also recognize that, except for on the sports fields where we're competing, there is a chance to cooperate. We're only 70 miles apart from our friends down at NDSU, and the chance to collaborate on research, on educational programs, we'd be silly not to.
Yeah, right. Well, and I'm sorry, NDSU fans, that we got you in football this year. But
yeah, right.
If you didn't see the Bubba Schwager podcast, make sure you go and find that. And,
so I should... I should share a story. Just connects football to AI.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we mentioned ChatGPT.
Yep.
It's created by OpenAI. So is DALL-E, which is the image creator.
Yep.
And after the victory, somebody sent me a DALL-E created image of a giant green hawk picking up a bison by the scruff of its neck. So sorry, bison fans. But what I really appreciated about that game, the sportsmanship that the bison showed as they were leaving the field. There were handshakes, hugs, and just a reminder that the sense of cooperation and teamwork exists. They fought like heck, both teams during that game. It was a great game, but.
You didn't win money on the game, did you?
Yeah, I'm not a betting person. And,
okay.
No.
Yeah, I got $50 on the deal. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, no, not at all.
But we can't do that. And that's
right. No, as a university official, it's absolutely an absolute no sports betting whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, we said it anyway, and we got to beat. It was 20 years, I think, is what
20 years, 2003, and that team from that year was actually there to be recognized that week.
Oh, really?
They were inducted into the Hall of Fame on that Thursday before the game, and then they were physically on the field during the first quarter. So it was a special day. And that touchdown run back by Luke Skokna,
oh, man.
First play of the game, literally people were so overwhelmed. I saw tears flowing from people's faces in the crowd. It was a high emotion game for sure.
Oh man, yeah. Bubba was he was emotional too,
as well.
But it was passionate about getting that win. You know, it's a big deal.
He's a high character coach. I really appreciate Bubba.
Yeah,
and all of our coaches.
Yeah, he's got a deep personal level that he can connect with people. When he was on the podcast, he can really connect with people and text me and I think his wife said he comes out to the Thompson area once in a while, and his wife always says he goes through these things every morning, a ritual of wishing everyone happy birthday or whatever, So it's a very personable guy, and you got some great coaches working
across all sports. I've been really pleased with the hard work that they put in, and the sense of character, the commitment to the academic mission. Mm-hmm. And our sports teams are the number one school in the U.S. for volunteer service hours. So of all the athletic departments across the U.S.,
wow,
UND is number one, and we did it 2 years in a row.
Dang.
So they commit to the community as well.
Does that come from you, or does that come from the coaching staff? Or
I tell the stories about it, but it's really about athletic director Bill Chaves and all the coaches that really reinforce that motto.
Wow, that's awesome. And we also have a great hockey program, which we have to shout out as well. And they're
off to a really good start.
Yeah, they're doing great things this year. We had a great weekend a couple weeks ago, and
and then
continuing.
Split with the number one last week.
You're right.
But it would have been nice to get two against the number one, but Minnesota was a really good team. And then this weekend, I think we have Mankato State. So another good team.
Which, we're doing really good things. And obviously, how do you? What's the split on your time? I mean, you have a lot of. I know something we were talking about. You have to take a lot of commitments, and I'm sure you're pulled in many directions. Yeah. I can't even imagine. How do you filter through that? How do you balance that a little bit? And how do you get around everybody?
Yeah, well, you make the effort, right? And you prioritize those human interactions. above all. But at the same time, there's the administrative role too, right? That you're kind of the chief administrator for the university. So you're right; it is a balance, and when you kind of get it wrong, you can feel it, and you just have to realign. But the one thing I do is my staff and I've set priorities for them to say these are the things that I think are important, and if it involves students or benefits to students, that's the top priority.
Okay.
And so people have asked, why are you taking a meeting with that student? I said, because that's my priority, right?
Okay.
And so you have to set a time, and sometimes you have to find time all the time. This happens week after week. Sometimes it's weekends, right, where phone calls are made and discussions are happening. And I don't call meetings on Saturdays or Sundays. Sure. But I'm always open to phone calls and cleaning up some business from the week, just because sometimes that's the only time you have time. Right. Right. But it's a very busy position, but I can't think of a better place to spend time than on a college campus, getting these folks, our students, ready for life. Right. Yeah. And I think it's not like working if you enjoy doing what you're doing and helping people on the weekends, right? Like, exactly. We'll take a call and you're open. You're a very open president, I think, and anyone can come to you. Yep. What are the students most ask? What's some of your couple asked questions? I'm just going to ask you now. Maybe something we can answer on here for them, but you get asked the questions of what your day-to-day looks like, or... Yeah, so people ask that a lot. Sometimes people ask about, believe it or not, parking issues. So parking is the bane of our existence on every college campus in this country. But we're making some changes there to make it more friendly, and really to invite, this is important, we don't want parking issues to be a barrier to invite people from the community onto the campus, right? That connection is so important, and we want it to be more accessible and not less accessible. So we're making some opportunities and some changes there as well. But students, I mean, it varies. Sometimes they have great strategic questions like, hey, we heard there's new buildings going up. Can you tell us more? Or a common one is, Mr. President, are you going to give us a snow day tomorrow? Right. So that I think social media was ablaze. Right. It was the common question yesterday. Gotcha. So it really varies, and we hear from parents all the time. But back to the balance issue. We spend a lot of time at the senior levels talking with legislators, talking with folks in DC, talking with donors. Really working kind of the financial position of the university to make sure that we have the resources to offer good programs. And then on campus, making sure students are getting the things that they need. How do we design new academic programs? How do we make student life and the experience of our students the best it can be? How do we achieve success on the sports fields? I mean, it's a daily mixture of different topics, and working with all the vice presidents and the deans to make sure they have the resources they need to succeed. So it's a balancing act, but it's fun. It's the best job in America. Right. So how many meetings do you have a week? A week? Yeah. How many do you have? Let me baseline myself here. I try to leave my schedule open. Like, I get most of my stuff done till about 10 a.m. and then I try to schedule everything after 10 a.m. to 4. Yeah. So I try to squeeze most of my meetings into there. So 3 to 4. Yeah. So I typically have probably between 10 and 15 meetings a day. Or events. Speaking engagements, probably 3 or 4 per week. Wow. So it goes. I mean, so weekly, it could encroach, 100 meetings a week. Right. How much on Zoom? Like, do you guys utilize Zoom for a lot of your meetings? Did I just say that? 100 meetings? That sounds unfathomable. I'm doing that to myself. Yeah, right. So, are you using technology to do all these, or are you are you physically meeting? No, it's a mixture. So Zoom has actually it's a curse a little bit. I know, because if you're traveling out of state, your tendency used to be, I'm gone. I'll be back. I'll be back, right? And catch me when I'm back. And now you're available all the time, and you're taking meetings that you wouldn't have done before because you have the technology. But so it's a real challenge. This is technology, right? This is what it kind of does to us. But it makes life easier too. Right. Well, and so how do you find time? Obviously, you have a team
assistants that can probably help and preparation for some of this, like you said, the speaking engagements. And is this just a muscle you're developing to be prepared quickly, or as much as you can, and come in with an open mind, or how are you preparing for 100 meetings and speaking engagements in that timeline?
Yeah, gosh. And now some of the meetings are discussions, right? It's one-on-ones with direct reports, but you set aside the time during the evenings to catch up, to review. You hope that when you're in the position as a president or a CEO, you trust the people who have come up with the proposed solutions, that they've probably done a really good job, right?
Yeah.
And so that relieves the burden as well.
Okay.
That they've done the preparation so that you don't have to do as much of it, right?
Yeah.
But for speeches, there are some times where I have people help write the speeches and develop the presentation, the visuals. But most of the speeches these days, I wake up in the morning, I say, I've got to do a speech today, and I eat breakfast and jot down my notes for the speech. You get used to, the audience, and you know the types of things and the campus stories that you'd like to share with people and impart the message or the wisdom that they've asked you to, and you just get into that pattern. Okay, you get into that pattern.
And you do you think about? And I'm curious, just because I've been doing more and more speaking, and just how you're doing a lot of these, right? Like, and your expectation is to deliver them at the highest level you can, I suppose. Right. And I'm guessing you've done this through your military and background. You had to do these on the limb, and it is a muscle. I think the more you do it, the better preparation you get. So, literally that morning, you can come up with a few main topics.
So it depends on the speech. If it's a short 5-minute speech, I always say this: anytime you walk into a room when you're in a position like that, know what 3 things you're going to say if you're asked to speak. Because you just always have your 3 things, right? Always. There are some speeches, and we had a couple of them at homecoming, where it required quite a bit more preparation. But the more you prepare, the more natural it becomes. And for me, preparation could be memorization, or it could be I'm just so familiar. I just have the outline in my head, and I know from my heart what I need to say, and it comes up. Careful policy speeches, like in the case of repatriation, we had to be very, very specific about the things that we said. Yes, and so those generally were more prepared and scripted, and I would write the comments, and I would get feedback from others. And, you just have to be really careful in the most sensitive situations.
Well, I think you said that in the beginning as you moved up in the rankings, and your leadership has moved to different levels. It's everything you say matters.
Everything you say matters.
You'll be criticized on anything that you say that's not what they want to hear.
I don't want to give the impression that you just wing it. There are times though where they're casual remarks, and on those speeches, you pick a few anecdotes to share, and you make it enjoyable for the people who are there.
Yeah, I like that. Yep. I like how one of the most student asked questions is parking too. That's
seems to be. I'm trying to think of other things they ask, but usually the most common is, "How are you doing today?" Right?
Yeah,
which is nice. It's a good sense around the campus.
So how do you in those 100 meetings? And I'm just curious now.
I should back off. That sounds daunting, but
I think
we'll look at my schedule afterwards. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's pretty tight. Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do it. And I think it's just I always think about how you prepare, and you're preparing at nights. I think most when you're. I think you're an entrepreneurial level, thinker. You don't get time to think all day and then deliver something. It's like, no, you do it at night, and you prepare at night, and you hopefully have an exceptional day the next day. And, I try to prepare every morning or every night for the next day to make it the most productive and show up, for the people I have to. Yeah. So I think that's a good takeaway that different people can listen to this and learn from. So you can always do more. But I think one of the things you got to also learn to say no, and how to be overcommitting can be overwhelming at times. And, you end up halving you don't show up fully for what you need to, but how do you say no sometimes? How you took this podcast and we're glad you did, and hopefully this helps some of the listeners with different situations they're in. But how do you learn to say no then to, even if they're high up senior level guys? I'm sure at times you have to, put the brakes on or open up.
Right. I tend to overcommit. I think it's an Armacost family problem because my dad was the same way and my mom too. But you just, there's not enough hours in the day. You're forced to prioritize. You're forced to say, I'm sorry, I can't participate in that. I have another engagement, or I don't have time for it. And people can be disappointed. But what you do have to do is pay attention to, and hopefully we're doing a pretty good job of this, that if you support one organization in one semester, and somebody else asks the next semester, spread the wealth, right? So that everybody feels touched by the leaders of the campus. And that's not just me, but it's the other vice presidents and deans and directors and so forth. So you just have to be careful on this. The great thing is if you have a great staff, which I do, they know your priorities as well, and they can say, he won't be able to do that, right?
I'm sure. Yeah, at this point, you get a lot of commitments to meetings, and
but part of I think the essence of how I like to operate, the personal connections matter. So I generally do more engagements than I probably should.
Gotcha.
But it's important to me, not for attention on me, but just knowing that the position of the president can serve as a motivator for others.
Right. And so, you're over 2 years into this.
3 years.
Or over 3 years into this.
Yeah.
What, do you enjoy what you do every day then?
Every day.
Yeah?
There's a couple days where you face challenges, but I think what I hope is that when you put the thought into the really challenging decisions you have to make, that you've taken the input and you're making a decision based on the principles and the values of the institution.
Okay.
It's fun to face those challenges head on, even if it's a difficult issue. Just knowing that you might be able to make a difference in the outcome is rewarding. And so that gives me, on those tough challenges, you say to yourself, today's the day I make a difference in somebody's life, or today's the day where we make a difference in the life of the campus, right?
Yeah. You're not paying the victim mentality that, all these challenges are happening to me, and then no, they're really just challenges, and you find them fun. I mean,
fun makes it seem like I do it for personal enjoyment. I find it to be important, and rewarding, right? Fun is probably if I used fun, I apologize to the viewers, but it's something that you have to be willing to do. My chief of staff, when I first hired him, came into my office after the first week. Rob, hello, and he says, I've never been in a place where every single issue is a gray issue. There's no black and white. I said, welcome to the front office.
Yeah.
Right? There's constituents who have opposing views on just about everything.
Oh, wow.
And you have to wrestle through it and come up with good decisions.
Wow.
But again, if you involve other people and hear their voices, generally you come out on a good side of a decision.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way anyone could solve issues. And from a top tier leader, I think it's one of the best leaders, and obviously why you kept moving up.
Well,
and you have a good way of navigating through challenging times.
We try to.
And if you find it rewarding, and I guess not fun wasn't the right word, but rewarding could be, you find it inspires you and to make an impact.
Right?
I think it's awesome. Well, I'm going to roll into, is there any, what's one of your biggest fears? It could be as a president, could be as a personal question, but do you have any, fears if they're not challenges?
Yeah, one of the big, I think when I think about the world these days, you can look around and find many things to fear. The biggest thing that I see impacting our society is just the polarization that's happening along political lines. And how do we actually kind of return to a less polarized world? And I think places like UND and NDSU and our other colleges across the state can play an important role there. And I know at UND, we want to not drive people to the corners, but rather look for opportunities to come together to talk about the hard issues that the world is facing. And we see war breaking out across the world as well. I won't go into the issues there, but we know that the people on our campus are watching these and having emotional reactions to them. And how do you pull people together to have meaningful discussions? So my biggest fear is that that polarization somehow keeps ripping at the fabric of our great nation. And how do we, as college campuses, help serve to unify?
Yeah, because you're, well, at the highest level and politics, I think it makes your job more challenging because it's very left or very right, and it seems like there's no middle direction or commonality there, which makes it difficult.
Yep.
And that's that's
one fear.
I don't despise your challenge there.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Other fear, it's been a stressful 3 years post-COVID, and even before COVID. The well-being of our students is something that's of incredible importance to all of us. Mm-hmm. And one of the big fears of a university president is when harm happens to any of the students on campus. And I want to make sure that we have the resources and support ready to help them out.
Gotcha. And so do you connect with other presidents of university? I mean, I imagine you have a group of you that talk and help solve issues and try to help each other?
All the time. So ordinarily when you go to conferences, we have one coming up in November. It's called the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities, APLU.
APLU.
And there's a series of sessions that we have just for presidents.
Okay.
And that's where we get to emote, to compare stories, to share common challenges, and to figure out or hear ideas about what good solutions people are trying on tough issues, and then what they're doing to promote good things on their campuses as well. So huge opportunity. And there's other organizations that host presidential forums. And we try to jump on those as much as we can. And then across the system, the presidents, the 11 North Dakota University system presidents, we're in touch all the time. We're on committee meetings. I probably see, probably 3-4 times a month. We see each other in one form or another.
Wow.
So it's a close group, and we have to work together because it's one system, and we need to be unified.
Gotcha. And so do you go, and then outside the states, you guys all still talk? I mean, it's no matter where it is in the U.S.
Right, and oftentimes you participate in discussion groups, and you connect with somebody who then you might reach out to privately later on to say, "Hey, I know you were wrestling with this particular issue.
Okay,
how do we get over it?"
That's a good way. And everyone needs a mentor, and someone's been a president longer than you have, and you got questions. And
this is an important thing. I talk about this all the time about having a mentor, or I'd say more of a confidant, right? Somebody who you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah,
gets harder and harder the higher and higher you get. Right, because there's nobody on the campus where I can kind of bare my soul to, right? So you have to find that. Not that I'm bare. That sounds terrible. But there are some tough issues that you wrestle with,
right?
That need to stay with you and only you on the campus.
Gotcha.
And so you have to find those types of people to help with the thinking.
Yeah. And I think it's at any position level, more challenging at your level.
Right. There's fewer people to reach out to. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And, but I think it's very important. Most business leaders should be connecting with other business leaders.
Absolutely.
And it's helped me drastically change my company. And the higher, if you can don't find someone 30 years ahead of you, find someone 2 years ahead of you, because they're addressing the same issues that you probably are facing now, and they can help you through them and minimize the mistakes. I think that can happen. So, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Yeah, great question. Everybody asks this. It sounds like a hidden question. Everybody had asked this when I interviewed for the position. How long are you going to be here?
Long-term goals.
So my long-term goal at UND is to continue to make positive change. There's a number of huge initiatives we have undergoing. And we have to keep generating those ideas and seeing them through. And so I've never been in a position of saying what's next. I mentioned that before. In this case, my what's next is being here at UND, and it sounds terrible. I have no aspirations beyond this position.
You might be here forever then.
I could be here forever.
That's all right then. We'd be just fine with that, Andy.
Thank you. But I should say something else, because even when you're a president, there's opportunities to contribute in other ways, right, through professional societies. So I think it's important over the next 100 years that I'm in this position that I continue to find ways to put UND in national organizations by serving on boards, by participating in professional organizations. And so I think where I see myself is making sure that my national outreach on behalf of the university continues to grow. Just so we can keep the way upper Midwest on the minds of others, and the power of UND on the forefront of the minds of other university presidents and congressional leaders and so forth.
How do you go about that? Do you just set goals each year on what you want to accomplish? Is that how you work?
Yeah, no, what I do is we're always invited to participate in boards. I'm not talking corporate boards, but a good example, and I don't know whether it will happen or not, but to serve on the Veterans Administration's Higher Ed Advisory Board. And so I had been nominated for that position. That's one I accepted because I thought, being in Washington, D.C., and given that we have a high level of veterans who are on our campus, 1,500 veterans or active duty folks or dependents, that would be one that would really benefit the interests of the university. And so I think as I look forward to the future, it's opportunities like that to increase my engagement on, so that we can make a difference in the lives of the people on the campus.
Okay. I like that. Since you're going to be working at campus forever, where do you see the campus going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so continuing to grow in our programs for students. So I think what we're really trying to do is identify areas that we can attract additional students to the campus, whether it's from North Dakota or Minnesota or other states in the region. I think we have to look at the impact of technology and digitization and AI on the way that we offer our programs. I think we'll still continue to focus on a balance between on-campus and online. I think that's important to continue. And I do, private support is going to become increasingly important as well. So donor support. And I mentioned the campaign earlier. And so that's an important feature to keep, and that's used for things like scholarships and attracting the highest quality faculty members to the campus. There's just a great benefit in the financial support that's provided through donors. I didn't intend to come on and talk too much about the campaign, so that's not a pitch, folks.
I think it's a good time to share it, and where do you think our student population will be in let's say 2033?
2033. So there's a couple interesting trends nationally, right?
Okay.
In 2008, you might not know this, the birth rate nationally dropped off because of the recession. People had fewer babies.
Gotcha.
And so now 18 years later, the number of high school graduates has dropped a significant amount in parts of the country.
Really?
So the upper Midwest and in North Dakota, it doesn't hit us until 2031.
Okay.
So we have to pay attention to those trends.
Okay.
And how do you counteract? For people who have been to school previously, how do you get them back to school to finish up? Welcome back to UND, perhaps?
Yeah. Maybe I have to get those 12 credits.
That's it?
I think it's
it's one semester.
Yeah, I know. It's just time commitment now.
Yeah, right.
I need another COVID. I should have did it in COVID if I was going to do it.
I
got my transcripts and I got everything planned
ready
out.
To go.
I was like, do I want to meet with the academic advisor or whatever and try to plan out my last classes, or it might even be a few more because it's changed a little bit too. So it was like they were trying to map me through there quickly. It was a goal of mine. Time commitment. Yeah. In North Dakota through COVID, we stayed pretty open, and through our construction company, we just kind of kept going. Yeah. Right through. So fortunate to be that way, and obviously, the state we live in tried to keep things open and moving, and it was just more challenging to get things done, more or less. But it was a good time,
but your question of students is a great one, and we just need to keep selling the positive case of the education they get at UND, the great environment on campus. There's just a lot for everybody to really take advantage of.
Right. I got one last question, and then we'll try to figure out how people can fill up your calendar even more. What does unfollow the herd mean to you?
Unfollow the herd?
Unfollow the herd.
Unfollow the herd?
Yeah.
What does it mean to me? So there must be a phrase, follow the herd, because you used it in your opening monologue as well.
Yep.
And I was going to say, no, you should be following the flock.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. That'd be a hawk.
That would be a hawk. Actually, I think there's a name for a group of hawks, but it's not well known.
Okay.
I think it's a kettle, but that doesn't really follow the kettle. People would say,
Right.
what's that about?
Yeah.
So unfollow the herd. Is this growing on social media?
I hope so. That's Jen's job back there. She,
Wow.
so we have a theme as entrepreneurs to
Do something different.
Yeah, and
I thought it was an NDSU reference.
No, geez, I would. Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah.
This is something I ask all my. And when I interview, I try to ask this question at the end, just what it means, because you didn't follow the common path. You broke through and just kept getting recognized as a leader and the opportunity to move up and break through uncomfortable situations. You don't know every situation. You have to wing it at times and not know what the future brings. So
you're right. Unfollow the herd. So the metaphor is a great one.
Okay.
But just following your passion, following what you think will make a difference. In my case, it's been focused on others, right? How do you lead in a way that you think is the most effective and do things that might not be conventional? But I also think it's important to not rely on unfollowing the herd as an excuse for like bad behavior or, hey, I'm going to be a contrarian just because that's who I should be, right? It should be based on principles. It should be based on some important purpose that you're trying to follow. But I've seen unfollowers who just use it as an excuse to just do whatever the heck they want. I mean, there's still other people involved in the enterprises of the world that you have to convince to come along with you.
Yep.
Right. And if you're too radically disobedient, you're not going to gain their support.
Yeah.
So there's a blend. You can kind of march to the beat of a different drummer, take different paths, but it just doesn't mean you follow your emotion and follow some blind path. You better have a strategy. You better think through how you get the support of others to be an unfollower, right?
Yeah.
So it's a real, I don't know what to call it. It's a duality, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'm just going to do whatever the heck I please.
Right. Yeah. Well,
at least that's my opinion.
That's a great one. I think it contrasts that you don't always have to think contrarian, but even if you do think contrarian, you still have to have people follow you and recognize your values and your mission. And if you're going to do something different with the university, if no one buys into that, then really you're just out there with yourself.
You're just out there with yourself.
Yeah.
And there are some people who have had great success in the world by being contrarians.
Yep.
And then they get idolized as a contrarian.
Oh yeah.
Rather than the impact that they're making, right?
Yep.
And I think if you're going to have long-term sustained success, you've got to balance it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
My opinion.
I like it.
Some people might disagree. Some people might say, no, go break glass and just go crazy and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, they'll comment below or something if they think differently.
Oh, a comment below. We're getting comments?
Yeah.
What?
No, we'd ask you questions. We don't do this live. Remember, we're editing. So right. We'll get comments below at some point, though, and we'll send them to you so you see what happened.
Great.
Well, how do people fill up your calendar so you can have 110 meetings a week instead of just 100?
It'll never happen. Cherie will not let that happen.
Don't let that happen. We need to get it down to 90.
Yeah.
That should be the goal.
Maybe 100 is, I don't know, rough order of magnitude, right? 10 to 12 to 13 a day, depending on the day. It's a lot of meetings.
It's a lot of meetings.
So maybe that's more like 60. Anyhow, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But again, each one of those meetings, I believe, has a purpose. It's either to work through a hard issue, it's to solicit advice, it's to hear ideas of others.
Oh,
it's all good. I try to take as much in as I can.
So if obviously, if a student or someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way if they wanted to land in your calendar? How do they do that? Or
yeah, so that's a great question. Sometimes they email me directly, since my email address is posted right there on the UND website. So now all those commenting below will probably CC me on their comments.
How about social media? Are you
social media? I do my own.
Okay.
Which is not as frequent as I probably should. But,
sure.
The whole goal is to say, here's what life is like on the campus through the eyes of the president. In other words, my observations about the great things happening on the campus. And, and who better to tell that story than me? But again, with time is limited, so I try to get to social media as much as I can.
Yeah.
But if a student were to reach out, usually they do it through my assistant, Cherie.
Yep.
And we talk about what the request is. I ask for a little information.
Yep. And
the first question I ask is it something that somebody else is better positioned to answer than me?
Gotcha.
Right? Because it doesn't do any good for somebody to come to the top only for me to go straight down to the person, the advisor or the finance officer.
Yep.
Who is going to answer the question anyway.
Gotcha.
And I don't want their answer to be any different because I'm involved.
Right.
It should be the right answer for that particular situation. And those people are the right ones to answer the question.
Answer the question.
Yeah.
You probably just always get every question just because you're supposed to know it all. Know everything.
I've been asked, I mentioned parking. I was asked to help a student with a student ID. Right. There's just it's just many things. And when you flatten the organization, right? So technology flattens organizations. People see your email address and they think, I'll just send him a note.
Yeah.
He can help me.
Yeah.
But they need to think through who's the right person on a campus or within the business or within the organization who really can help them out.
Gotcha. What social media platform are you on? You got Instagram, LinkedIn, you got Facebook. I mean, is there one that you use more than another?
Yeah, I just use Facebook for personal.
Okay.
And so I use Instagram primarily, Twitter or X a little bit, and then LinkedIn I'm on all the time.
Oh, okay. I'm on LinkedIn a lot too. I enjoy that style, I guess, of content. And so anyway, well, you can maybe DM him on there if you have a question.
There we go.
Maybe he can just answer the question
Here comes
quickly.
the flood.
Yeah. So make sure everyone on campus DMs him after this, so he has at least 14,000 unread messages when he gets back.
There we go.
Andy, I appreciate the time. We won't take up any more, but I super appreciate you coming on here and what you do for our campus.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And thanks for your leadership in the community and all you do for your employees as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Great.
Yep.